I found out my wife was cheating when I went through her purse. It was a typical Thursday evening. I had just gotten home from work, tired and ready to relax. My wife, Emily, greeted me with her usual smile, and for a moment, everything seemed normal. We had been married for 10 years, and I always believed our bond was strong. Looking back now, I realize how wrong I was. That night, Emily seemed distracted. She was texting someone, her fingers flying across the screen, and then she laughed. It was a laugh I hadn't heard in a long time, the kind she used to share with me. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe it was her sister or a friend, but something didn't feel right. No. Later that evening, she mentioned she needed to go to the store for some groceries. She grabbed her purse and left in a hurry, leaving her phone on the counter. Emily never forgot her phone. It was practically glued to her hand. I wanted to pick it up, but I resisted. I didn't want to be that kind of husband. Instead, I told myself to let it go. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. 2 days later, on Saturday morning, Emily was getting ready to go out with her friends. At least that's what she told me. She asked if I'd seen her car keys, and in her rush to grab them, she left her purse on the couch. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the way she'd been acting, distant, distracted. Whatever it was, I opened her purse. My hands trembled as I searched through it. At first, I found nothing unusual, but then I saw it, a folded piece of paper. It was a receipt from a hotel dated 2 weeks ago. She had told me she was working late that night. My heart sank. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, but deep down, I knew the truth. When Emily came back into the room, she kissed me goodbye, completely unaware of what I had just discovered. For the rest of the day, I couldn't think about anything else. The late nights, her sudden interest in her appearance, the constant texting, it all started to make sense. That evening, I checked her phone. My hands were trembling as I opened her messages. That's when I found them. Texts from a man named Ryan. Explicit messages. My worst fears were confirmed. When Emily came out of the shower, I was sitting on the bed with her phone in my hand. I asked her, "Who is Ryan?" Her reaction said it all. She burst into tears, apologizing, making excuses. She begged me to forgive her, but her words felt hollow. The damage was done. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions. I oscillated between anger, sadness, and a desperate need to understand why she had done this. Emily tried to explain. She said she felt neglected, that we had grown distant over the years. While some of her words struck a chord, they didn't justify the betrayal. Marriage is built on trust, and she had shattered it. I found myself replaying memories of our life together. The first time we met at a mutual friend's barbecue, how her laugh had been infectious, and her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams. I remembered our wedding day, standing at the altar, vowing to love and cherish each other forever. Those moments felt like they belonged to someone else's life now. One night, unable to sleep, I drove to the hotel listed on the receipt. It was a modest place, nothing extravagant. I sat in the parking lot for hours, staring at the entrance, trying to piece together what had happened there. Did she laugh with him the way she used to laugh with me? Did she tell him the things she once told me? The thought was unbearable. We decided to try counseling, though my heart wasn't fully in it. I wanted to believe we could salvage what was left of our marriage. The counselor encouraged us to communicate openly, to address the underlying issues that had led us to this point. Emily seemed genuinely remorseful, and there were moments when I thought we might have a chance. But then there were the triggers, a notification on her phone, a change in her tone, or even a song on the radio. Everything felt like a reminder of her betrayal. Trust once broken is nearly impossible to rebuild. I started to realize that even if we stayed together, our marriage would never be the same. One evening, as I sat alone in the living room, I came across an old photo album. It was filled with pictures from our early years together, vacations, holidays, random moments of joy. I flipped through the pages, a knot tightening in my chest. Those smiles, those laughs, were they real? Or had I been blind to signs of trouble even back then? Emily walked in and saw me holding the album. She sat down beside me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I'll do anything to fix this." Her words hung in the air, heavy with desperation. But I had nothing left to give. The decision to end our marriage wasn't easy. I wrestled with guilt, fear, and the stigma of divorce. I worried about how our families and friends would react. But ultimately, I knew I deserved better. I deserved someone who valued and respected me enough to be honest. Filing for divorce was one of the hardest things I've ever done. The process was emotionally draining, but it also gave me a sense of clarity. I began focusing on myself, something I hadn't done in years. I started going to the gym, reconnecting with old friends, and pursuing hobbies I had long abandoned. Slowly but surely, I started to heal. In the months that followed, I learned a lot about resilience. I realized that pain, while excruciating in the moment, has a way of shaping you into a stronger person. I also learned the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing my own well-being. For so long, I had been consumed by the idea of keeping our marriage intact, even at the cost of my own happiness. One day, as I was packing up my things to move into a new apartment, I came across the hotel receipt that had started it all. I held it in my hands for a moment before tearing it into pieces. It felt symbolic, a way to let go of the past and make room for the future. Looking back, I realized that finding that receipt in her purse was a blessing in disguise. It forced me to confront the truth and take control of my life. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through, but it taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and resilience. Today, I'm in a much better place. I've learned to forgive, not for her sake, but for my own. Holding on to anger and resentment only prolongs the pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or condoning what happened. It means choosing to move forward. If there's one thing I've taken away from this experience, it's that life is too short to settle for anything less than honesty and respect. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to the most growth. And for that, I'm grateful.